Hi, my beautiful family. Welcome back to Mr. Peter's Stories. My beautiful family, how are you? I missed you more than words can ever express. Every moment away from you felt like a lifetime. And now that I'm here, my heart is overflowing with love for you all. You are my joy, my strength, and my greatest blessing. I love you so much, my beautiful family. Before we begin, let me say a heartfelt prayer for my most precious family. May the light of love and peace shine upon each of you. May your hearts be filled with endless joy, your souls be wrapped in warmth, and your paths be guided by grace. May you always be surrounded by kindness, and may blessings follow you wherever you go. May love, laughter, and happiness be your daily companions, and may you always feel cherished and protected. Amen. My beautiful family, I have been away for so long, but I never stopped thinking about you. Every single day, I carried you in my heart, and today I wanted to do something special. I created a video for you. It's not just a story, it's my way of reaching out, of reconnecting with you, of letting you feel how much I missed you. Please don't be too hard on me if my voice isn't perfect or if I make mistakes. After so much time, my voice may sound different, sometimes low, sometimes high. But I just wanted to test myself to see if I can still bring you the stories you love. Now I need your honest opinion. Should I continue reading or should James carry on? Your thoughts mean everything to me, my beautiful family. Let's begin with love, with passion, and with all my heart. Chapter 1. First Glance. The Moonlight Charity Gala was the kind of event Nova Rivers usually avoided. Crystal chandeliers hanging from vaulted ceilings, champagne flowing endlessly, and conversations that rarely ventured beyond stock portfolios and vacation homes. At 32, she had learned that her work as an art therapist for underprivileged children rarely impressed the diamond-draped socialites who attended such functions. Yet tonight, she stood at the edge of the ballroom, a vision in a simple midnight blue gown borrowed from her roommate, her dark curls cascading down her shoulders. "Remember why you're here," she whispered to herself, fingers lightly tracing the rim of her untouched champagne flute. The community center where she worked needed funding, desperately. Pride was a luxury she couldn't afford, not when her kids needed new art supplies and a roof that didn't leak during spring rains. Across the ballroom, Orion Kai adjusted his custom-tailored jacket, nodding politely as a silver-haired board member droned on about quarterly projections. At 38, he had perfected the art of simultaneous listening and scanning, a skill honed through years of tedious corporate functions. As CEO of the Kai Foundation, he navigated these waters with practiced precision, knowing exactly when to smile, when to nod, when to make the generous donation that would silence the most persistent fundraisers. "The Children's Hospital expansion is proceeding ahead of schedule," he replied automatically, his attention suddenly diverted by a flash of midnight blue in his peripheral vision. He turned, and the world around him seemed to still. She stood, alone, a striking contrast to the women who typically circled these events like elegant sharks. There was something arresting in her posture, a quiet dignity, an authenticity that made the room's opulence seem suddenly garish in comparison. When she lifted her gaze, their eyes met across the crowded room, and Orion felt something he hadn't experienced in years, perhaps ever. A recognition, a possibility. "Excuse me," he murmured to the board member, who blinked in surprise as Orion moved away, drawn across the room by an invisible current. Nova felt his approach before she saw him move. Something electric seemed to charge the air between them, making the fine hairs on her arms rise. He was impossibly handsome in the way that power and confidence often enhanced conventional good looks. Tall, with broad shoulders, sharp cheekbones, and eyes so intensely blue they seemed almost luminous under the chandeliers. But it wasn't his appearance that made her breath catch. It was the direct, searching quality of his gaze. He looked at her as though trying to solve a puzzle. "You don't want to be here," he said when he reached her, his voice a rich baritone that somehow cut through the room's ambient noise without being loud. Nova blinked, startled by his directness. "That obvious?" A smile played at the corner of his mouth, only to another reluctant attendee. "You? Reluctant?" She raised an eyebrow, taking in his perfectly tailored suit and commanding presence. "You look like you were born for rooms like this." "Appearances," he said with a slight shrug, "are rarely the full story." Something in his tone resonated with her, a hint of weariness beneath the polish that matched her own fatigue from constantly maintaining appearances. For a moment, they stood in silence, an island of authenticity in a sea of performance. "I'm Orion Kai," he finally said, extending his hand. "Nova Rivers." Her fingers met his, and a jolt of awareness shot up her arm. She withdrew her hand quickly, unnerved by her body's response. "Though I imagine you already knew that, you seem like someone who knows everyone in the room." "I was about to say the same about you," he replied with surprising warmth. "The art therapist who's transformed the Riverside Community Center. Your reputation precedes you." Nova felt her cheeks warm. "You've heard of the center?" "I make it my business to know about remarkable work being done in the city," he said, "particularly when it involves giving children tools to express themselves." For the next hour, they remained in their quiet corner, the gala continuing around them unnoticed. Nova found herself sharing stories of her students' breakthroughs, the 7-year-old who hadn't spoken since witnessing domestic violence until he painted his fear in violent reds and blacks, the teenage girl who processed her mother's cancer through clay sculptures, the group of refugee children who created a mural representing their journey to America. Orion listened with rare, genuine attention, asking questions that revealed his own understanding of childhood trauma and healing. As their conversation deepened, Nova realized with surprise that she had unconsciously moved closer to him, drawn by the intensity of his focus and the unexpected comfort of his presence. "The center needs a new roof," she confessed after he asked about their most pressing needs, "and art supplies are always in short supply. These children pour everything they can't say into their art. Running out of materials mid-session is..." She shook her head, unable to finish. "Unacceptable," Orion finished for her, his jaw tightening. A server approached with fresh champagne, but Orion waved him away with a subtle gesture. "Would you walk with me?" he asked Nova, nodding toward the terrace doors. "I find I need some air." Outside, the spring night was cool and fragrant with early blooming jasmine. Stars punctured the velvet sky above, far more visible here than from Nova's apartment in the city. She inhaled deeply, feeling some of the evening's tension dissolve in the quiet. "You've built something remarkable," Orion said, his voice softer now that they were alone. "Something real." Nova turned to find him studying her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "It doesn't feel remarkable most days, just necessary." "The necessary work is often the most remarkable," he replied, and in the moonlight she saw something vulnerable flash across his features, a momentary crack in the confident facade. "And the rarest." When he looked at her then, something profound and unspoken passed between them, a recognition of kindred spirits despite their different worlds. Nova felt her heart quicken, awareness spreading through her body like warmth from a flame. Later, she would remember this moment as the beginning, this silent acknowledgement under the stars, with the sounds of the gala muted behind them and the vast night sky open above. The moment when destiny quietly, irrevocably shifted, setting them on a collision course neither could have anticipated nor avoided. For now, she simply stood beside him, allowing herself to feel the rare, dangerous spark of possibility igniting between them. Chapter 2. Gentle Pursuit. 3 days after the gala, Nova arrived at the community center to find a package on her desk. A wooden box with no note or card, just her name handwritten in elegant script. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, lay 24 tubes of professional-grade oil paints, the expensive kind she only splurged on for special projects. Her fingers hovered over the vibrant colors, mind racing to identify who could have left such a gift. Her question was answered the following morning when an unmarked envelope appeared in the same spot. Inside, she found a handwritten poem on thick cream paper, the words forming an intricate description of a child finding her voice through color and form. The familiarity with her work sent a shiver down Nova's spine. This wasn't generic sentiment, but something crafted by someone who had listened, truly listened, to her stories at the gala. It could only be one person. For 2 weeks, the gifts continued. Art supplies appearing mysteriously overnight, always of exceptional quality, always exactly what her students needed most. Never flashy or excessive, never with a card or request for acknowledgement. Then came more poems, each one demonstrating a deeper understanding of her work and the children she served. "Someone's got an admirer," teased Imani, her assistant, as they unpacked a delivery of specialized clay for sensory-sensitive children. Something Nova had mentioned in passing during her conversation with Orion. "It's not like that," Nova protested, though her warming cheeks betrayed her. On the 17th day after the gala, she arrived to find not a gift, but Orion himself, sleeves rolled up, helping the maintenance man install a new sink in the art room. His tailored trousers were smudged with plumber's putty, his usually perfect hair slightly disheveled as he tightened a fitting. "Mr. Kai," she said, unable to keep the surprise from her voice. "This is unexpected." He straightened, wiping his hands on a rag. "Please, it's Orion, and I hope it's not unwelcome. The sink has been leaking for months," she admitted. "But you didn't have to." "I wanted to," he interrupted gently. "The financial donation is already being processed for the roof, but some things shouldn't wait on administrative timelines." Nova fought the conflicting emotions rising in her chest. Gratitude tangled with a stubborn pride that had sustained her through years of making do with insufficient resources. "The children will be here soon. Perhaps we could continue this conversation after their session?" He nodded, understanding. The boundary she was setting, "I'll finish up here." Throughout the afternoon, Nova found her attention drifting from her students to the man who now sat quietly in the corner of the room, observing with genuine interest as the children worked on their projects. Unlike other donors who occasionally visited for photo opportunities, Orion didn't pull out his phone or check his watch. Instead, he watched with thoughtful attention, occasionally offering a word of encouragement when a child showed him their work. When Shy Miguel, a recent refugee who rarely interacted with adults, approached Orion with a painting, Nova held her breath. She watched as Orion knelt to Miguel's level, giving the boy his complete focus as Miguel explained in halting English the story behind his vibrant landscape. The genuine care in Orion's response, not patronizing, not performative, made something inside Nova shift. After the children left, they sat together on the back steps of the center, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades the children had tried to capture all afternoon. "Why are you doing this?" Nova finally asked, the question that had been burning through her since the first gift appeared. Orion was quiet for a moment, considering her question with the same attention he gave everything. "When you spoke about your work at the gala, I heard something I rarely encounter in my world, genuine purpose. After our conversation, I couldn't stop thinking about what you said about running out of supplies mid-session." "So this is charity," she said, a slight edge entering her voice. "No," he replied immediately, turning to face her. "This is recognition. What you're doing matters, Nova. I have resources that can help, but that's not—" He paused, seemingly searching for the right words. "That's not why I can't stop thinking about you." The honesty in his voice caught her off guard. For weeks, she had tried to rationalize her reaction to him as gratitude or flattery, anything but the undeniable attraction that had lingered since their first meeting. "I've made you uncomfortable," he said, misinterpreting her silence. "No," she admitted. "You've made me wonder why someone like you would be interested in someone like me." His expression softened. "Someone like me. Wealthy, powerful. You could have anyone." "I've had anyone," he replied, a shadow crossing his features. "What I haven't had is real connection with someone who sees beyond the name and the position." In the weeks that followed, Orion became a regular presence at the center. He arrived each Friday afternoon to volunteer with the children's program, rolling up his sleeves to help with messy art projects, sitting cross-legged on the floor to aid the youngest students. No cameras documented these visits, no press releases announced the Kai Foundation's hands-on involvement. One evening, after helping clean dried clay from tables and floors, Orion presented Nova with a small envelope. "I was hoping you might join me Saturday," he said, a hint of uncertainty in his voice that she found endearing from a man who commanded boardrooms with ease. Inside was an invitation to a small exhibition by artists overcoming trauma, exactly the kind of event that aligned with her work. "Not a gala," he added with a small smile, "just art that speaks to what you do every day." Nova hesitated, aware of the line she was about to cross. This wasn't about donations or professional courtesy anymore. This was unmistakably personal. "Yes," she said finally, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. "I'd like that." That first date led to others. Quiet dinners at hole-in-the-wall restaurants where no one recognized the famous CEO. Long walks through parks where they talked for hours about everything from childhood memories to favorite books. Museum visits, where they lost track of time, standing before paintings that moved them. Through it all, Orion pursued her with the same gentle persistence that had characterized those first anonymous gifts. Attentive, thoughtful, never presuming or pushing, always with a respect that made Nova's carefully constructed defenses slowly, inevitably, begin to crumble. "You're falling for him," Imani observed one afternoon as they watched Orion patiently teach a group of children how to mix colors to create specific shades. Nova didn't deny it this time. Instead, she watched the man who had unexpectedly entered her life, bringing with him not just resources, but genuine care for her work and her world. The man whose gentle pursuit had awakened feelings she had long ago decided weren't meant for her. "Yes," she whispered, more to herself than to Imani. "I am." Chapter 3. Walls of Hesitation. Nova stood at the edge of the rocky outcrop, watching dark clouds gather over the restless ocean. What had begun as a pleasant afternoon hike along the coastal trail with Orion had quickly transformed as weather rolled in from the sea. The first fat raindrops struck her upturned face as thunder rumbled ominously. "There's a lighthouse keeper's cottage just ahead," Orion called over the rising wind, pointing toward a weathered structure silhouetted against the darkening sky. "We can wait out the storm there." They ran as the heavens opened, rain instantly soaking through Nova's light jacket. By the time they reached the abandoned lighthouse, they were both drenched, laughing breathlessly as they ducked through the unlocked door. "Some date this turned out to be," Orion said, running a hand through his wet hair. "I promised you spectacular ocean views, not a potential drowning." "I don't mind," Nova replied, wringing water from her curls, "though I'm beginning to think spontaneous adventure follows you everywhere." The interior was dusty but dry, old furniture draped in sheets like silent ghosts. Orion found candles in a drawer and matches on the mantel, filling the space with warm, flickering light that cast long shadows on the walls. Outside, lightning flashed, followed by a tremendous crack of thunder. "Looks like we might be here a while," he said, arranging cushions by the stone fireplace. He coaxed a small fire with driftwood stacked neatly beside the hearth, the salt infused. Flames burning blue-green. Wrapped in a musty blanket, Nova watched him move with easy confidence through the space. After 2 months of careful dating, she knew so much about him, his favorite books, his childhood memories, his passion for his foundation's work. Yet she still felt as though he kept parts of himself carefully guarded. "Why me, Orion?" she asked abruptly, the question that had lingered between them finally finding voice in the storm's intimate isolation. "Out of all the women in your world, why pursue someone who runs a struggling community arts center?" He stilled back to her as he tended the fire. When he turned, the flames cast his face in shifting light and shadow. "Is that how you see yourself? As somehow less worthy because you don't move in so-called elite circles?" "I'm being realistic," she countered. "We come from different worlds. You attend board meetings in skyscrapers. I scrub paint from kindergartners' hands. You must have women throwing themselves at you daily. You think I don't know what those women want?" His voice had a sudden edge. "The name, the money, the status, never me, just what I represent." He sat beside her close enough that she could see droplets of rain still clinging to his eyelashes. "Do you know what it's like to never be certain if someone truly sees you, or just what you can provide them?" The raw honesty in his voice caught her off guard. "I hadn't considered that wealth could be its own kind of prison." "A gilded one," he agreed with a sardonic smile that didn't reach his eyes. "But a prison nonetheless." Lightning illuminated the room in stark white, followed immediately by thunder that seemed to shake the very foundation of the cottage. The storm was directly overhead now, wild and primeval. "My father built the Kai fortune from nothing," Orion continued, staring into the flames. "He never let me forget that everything we had could disappear if I didn't maintain his legacy. Success wasn't an option. It was the only acceptable outcome." "That sounds incredibly lonely," Nova said softly. "It was." His eyes met hers, vulnerability evident in his gaze. "Until I met you, Orion." "You asked why you?" he interrupted gently. "It's because when I'm with you, I'm not CEO Orion Kai. I'm just a man trying to do something meaningful with the resources I've been given. You see the person I want to be, not the persona I've had to become." Nova felt something tighten in her chest, recognition of a kindred spirit despite their different circumstances. She too had built barriers from past disappointments, protective barriers erected after relationships where men had eventually grown tired of her dedication to her work, her refusal to compromise her purpose for their convenience. "I've been hurt before," she admitted, pulling the blanket tighter around her shoulders. "Men who initially found my passion inspiring, but ultimately wanted someone who would prioritize their needs over everything else. I would never ask you to be less than who you are," he said, gaze steady on hers. "Your dedication to those children, to creating spaces for healing through art, it's who you are. Asking you to change that would be asking you to be someone else entirely." The honesty between them felt dangerous, like standing at the edge of a precipice. Nova had spent years protecting herself, convinced that her purpose and personal happiness were somehow mutually exclusive choices. "I'm afraid," she whispered, the confession barely audible above the rain lashing against the windows. "Of what?" "Of feeling this way about you." The words hung in the air between them, impossible to take back. "Of believing this could be real, only to discover it's another beautiful illusion." Orion moved closer, his hand finding hers in the dim light. "I can't promise we won't face obstacles, Nova, but I can promise that what I feel for you is the most real thing in my life." The storm seemed to hold its breath as they sat in silence, the only sounds the crackling of the fire and the steady drumming of rain on the roof. The barriers Nova had built so carefully over years were trembling, foundations weakening under the gentle siege of his patience and honesty. When lightning flashed again, illuminating his face in stark relief, she saw something in his expression that mirrored her own internal struggle. Hope warring with fear, desire tempered by caution. "Tell me what you're thinking," he urged softly. "That I'm terrified of letting you in," she admitted, "and equally terrified of letting this chance pass by." His fingers tightened around hers. "I understand fear, Nova. I've lived with it my entire life. Fear of failure, fear of disappointing others, fear of never finding something genuine in a world built on appearances." As wind howled around the small cottage, they sat facing each other, two souls stripped bare by circumstance and choice. The storm had trapped them physically, but something else entirely had brought them to this moment of emotional vulnerability. "Maybe courage isn't the absence of fear," Nova said finally. "Maybe it's feeling afraid and moving forward anyway." Orion's gaze never left hers. "I've never wanted anything the way I want a chance with you. Not success, not wealth, nothing." The barriers inside Nova trembled, weakened by his words, by the naked honesty in his eyes, by the realization that she was standing at a crossroads. Continue hiding behind her carefully constructed defenses, or risk everything for a chance at something profoundly real. Outside, the storm raged on, wild and untamed, a perfect reflection of the emotions churning within her. They sat in the flickering candlelight, neither moving, both aware that whatever happened next would irrevocably change them both. Chapter 4. Love Awakened. They stood by the lighthouse window, silhouettes against the storm-darkened sky. Lightning fractured the darkness, momentarily painting Orion's features in stark relief as he gazed down at Nova. The air between them seemed to crackle with the same electric energy that charged the atmosphere outside. "I should be practical," Nova whispered, though she made no move to increase the distance between them. "We should be discussing how to get back to the city, not..." "Not what?" Orion's voice had dropped to a husky timbre that sent shivers across her skin. "Not standing here pretending we don't both feel this." His hand came up to touch her face, fingers tracing her cheekbone with reverent care. "I stopped pretending the moment I met you." The tension that had been building between them for months, through quiet dinners, lingering goodbyes, stolen glances, and careful boundaries, finally snapped. Nova couldn't have said who moved first, only that suddenly his lips were on hers, gentle at first, then with an escalating hunger that matched the storm's intensity outside. Years of careful restraint dissolved in that kiss. Orion's hands tangled in her hair, pulled her closer until she could feel his heartbeat thundering against her own. Nova's fingers gripped his shoulders, slid beneath his damp shirt to touch warm skin, each point of contact sending electricity coursing through her veins. "Tell me to stop," he murmured against her throat. "And I will." Nova drew back, just far, enough to meet his gaze, finding his eyes dark with the same desire coursing through her. "Don't stop," she whispered, making her choice with complete clarity. "Don't ever stop." What followed transcended mere physical connection. As they sank onto the nest of blankets before the fire, clothing shed with increasing urgency, Nova felt something within her irrevocably shifting, barriers crumbling, defenses falling away. Each touch, each kiss became an act of revelation, Orion worshipping her body with the same patient attentiveness he'd shown her heart. In the firelight, their shadows danced across weathered walls, as ancient as the emotions binding them together. When they finally joined, moving together in a rhythm as primal as the storm itself, Nova felt tears sting her eyes at the overwhelming rightness of their connection. Afterward, nestled in his arms as rain continued to drum against the roof, she traced patterns on his chest, marveling at how natural this felt, as though they had always been meant to find their way to each other. "What are you thinking?" Orion murmured, pressing a kiss to her temple. "That I never expected this," she admitted. "You, us, any of it." His arms tightened around her. "Regrets?" "No," she said with certainty that surprised even herself. "No regrets, just wonder." Their night in the lighthouse became the first of many. As spring melted into summer, they created their own world together. Weekends at his secluded lake house, where they swam naked under moonlight. Quiet evenings in her modest apartment, cooking simple meals and talking until dawn. Stolen afternoons, in his office with the door locked, unable to contain their hunger for each other even in professional settings. Beyond the physical, their emotional connection deepened daily. Nova found herself sharing dreams she'd never voiced aloud, expanding her program to serve more children, creating a therapeutic art space for adults who'd experienced trauma, publishing her methods to help others implement similar programs. Orion didn't just listen. He engaged, offering perspectives that challenged and expanded her vision, always careful never to overwhelm or dominate. For the first time, Nova experienced partnership without sacrifice, support without strings attached. "I'm thinking of buying the abandoned theater next to the community center," Orion mentioned one evening as they lay tangled in her sheets, city lights twinkling through the window. It could be converted into a proper art therapy facility with exhibition space for the children's work. Nova propped herself up on one elbow, studying his face. "That's a major investment." "Not if you consider the return," he countered. "Not. All value can be measured in financial terms. And what would my role be in this grand vision?" she asked, careful to keep her tone neutral. He caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. "Whatever you want it to be. It's your program, Nova. Your vision. I'm just providing the canvas." She searched his face for any sign of the controlling behavior she'd experienced in past relationships, finding only sincerity in his eyes. "You continue to surprise me, Orion Kai. In good ways, I hope," he murmured, pulling her back into his embrace. As summer heat intensified, so did their connection. They became attuned to each other's rhythms, anticipating needs before they were voiced, finding a harmony that seemed almost supernatural in its perfection. The outside world began to fade in importance compared to the universe they'd created. Together. One perfect July evening, they sat on the rooftop garden of his penthouse, the city spread beneath them like a carpet of jewels. Over dessert, Orion reached for her hand. "I've been thinking," he began, an uncharacteristic nervousness in his voice. Nova's heart stuttered at his tone. "That sounds ominous." "Not at all," he smiled, thumb tracing circles on her wrist. "I've just been thinking that we've been dancing around something neither of us has been brave enough to name." "And what's that?" she asked, though she already knew. "That I'm in love with you," he said simply. "Completely, irrevocably in love with you. And I hope, you might feel the same." The world seemed to hold its breath as Nova looked into the eyes of the man who had systematically dismantled her defenses, who had shown her that passion and purpose could coexist, who had never once asked her to be less than her authentic self. "I do," she whispered, the truth she'd been harboring bursting free at last. "I love you, Orion, more than I thought possible." Their kiss tasted of champagne and certainty, sealing a commitment neither had expected to find. Later that night, their lovemaking took on a new dimension, slower, deeper, infused with the power of feelings finally given voice. As summer nights melted together in a haze of newfound love, Nova dared to believe in the future unfolding before them. For once, she allowed herself to imagine happiness without waiting for the other shoe to drop, to trust that some connections truly were meant to endure. She couldn't have known, as August burned hot and brilliant around them, that their perfect world was built on foundations more fragile than either realized, or that the greatest test of their love was rapidly approaching on the horizon, poised to shatter everything they'd so carefully built together. Chapter 5. Unexpected Miracle. The community center hummed with activity as Nova guided 15 children through an exercise in emotional expression through color. Paint smudged her hands and dotted her clothes, all signs of a successful session. Despite the familiar joy of watching young minds create, she couldn't shake the persistent fatigue that had plagued her for weeks. "Ms. Nova, is blue always sad?" 7-year-old Lily asked, dabbing cerulean onto her canvas. Nova knelt beside the child. "Colors mean different things to different people. What does blue feel like to you?" "Like swimming in the ocean with my dad before he went away," Lily said softly, "happy but also missing him." "Then your blue is both joy and longing," Nova replied. "That's what makes art so powerful. Colors can hold more than one feeling at once." As she stood, a wave of dizziness swept over her. She gripped the table edge, breathing deeply until the sensation passed. These spells had been coming more frequently lately, along with unusual sensitivity to smells and constant exhaustion. Imani appeared at her side, concern etched across her features. "That's the third time today. You need to see a doctor, Nova." "It's just stress," Nova insisted, though a nagging worry had taken root in her mind. "Stress doesn't make you nearly pass out during story time," Imani countered, voice low to avoid alarming the children. "Promise me you'll make an appointment." Nova moved to help another student, fighting another spell of lightheadedness. A sharp pain lanced through her chest, stealing her breath. "Imani!" she managed to gasp before the room tilted sideways. She awoke to the sterile brightness of a hospital room. Orion sat beside her bed, his usually immaculate appearance disheveled, dark circles beneath his eyes suggesting he hadn't slept. "You're awake. Thank God," he said, reaching for her hand. "What happened?" "You collapsed at the center. Chest pains. They've been running tests." Dr. Chen entered with a clipboard. After explaining about elevated hormone levels and cardiovascular stress, she paused, studying Nova's reaction. "Ms. Rivers, were you aware of your pregnancy?" The world seemed to stop. "Pregnancy?" Nova repeated. "Yes, you're approximately 10 weeks along." Orion's hand tightened around hers as Nova struggled to process this. "That's not possible. I'm on birth control." "No method is 100% effective," the doctor explained. "And based on your ultrasound, there's more you should know." She hesitated. "You're carrying triplets." "Triplets," Nova echoed, the word foreign on her tongue. 3 heartbeats. "Hold strong," Dr. Chen confirmed, "which explains your symptoms. Your body is producing 3 times the normal hormone levels." Nova turned to Orion, expecting to find shock mirroring her own. Instead, she saw something unexpected, wonder mingled with unmistakable joy. "3 babies," he whispered, "our babies." After Dr. Chen left, silence fell between them. Nova stared at the ceiling, hands unconsciously moving to her still flat stomach. "Say something," Orion finally urged. "I don't know what to say," she admitted. "Yesterday, I was worried about grant applications. Today, I'm carrying 3 lives inside me." "Are you upset?" he asked carefully. "Not upset, overwhelmed, terrified." She turned to face him. "We've only been together 4 months, Orion. We've never even discussed children." "I know." He brought her hand to his lips. But if I were to imagine having a family with anyone, it would be you." His certainty steadied her somewhat. "How are you so calm about this?" "I'm not calm," he admitted with a small laugh. "I'm terrified, too, but also filled with a kind of joy I didn't know was possible." When she was discharged that evening, Orion insisted she stay at his penthouse where he could care for her properly. In the early morning, Nova awoke to find Orion beside her, one hand resting protectively over her stomach. For the first time, since hearing the news, a tentative happiness bloomed within her. The peaceful moment shattered when her phone buzzed with a news alert. She opened the notification, then sat bolt upright, blood draining from her face. "Orion!" she gasped, shaking. "Him awake. Look!" He blinked awake, squinting at the screen. Kai Foundation CEO's secret romance with charity worker exposed. Below was a photo of them kissing on his private rooftop garden, clearly taken with a long-range lens. The article questioned whether Nova was using Orion for funding, whether the recent grant to her community center was influenced by their relationship. More notifications flooded her phone, messages from board members, from parents of her students. The story had gone viral, their private relationship suddenly public fodder. "I'll handle this," Orion said, voice tight with controlled anger. "My PR team will issue a statement immediately." "A statement won't undo this," Nova whispered, still, staring at the screen where more photos appeared. "This makes everything I've worked for look compromised." As reality crashed around them, Nova felt a fresh wave of nausea that had nothing to do with her pregnancy. Their private world had been invaded, exposed to public scrutiny, and somewhere within her growing panic was a terrible realization. With triplets on the way, and their relationship now public knowledge, the media storm would only intensify. She looked up at Orion, finding his expression hardened into the CEO mask she rarely saw in their private moments. "What do we do now?" she asked, one hand unconsciously moving to her stomach where 3 tiny lives, oblivious to the chaos, continued to grow. Chapter 6. Paradise Lost. Rain lashed against the windows of Nova's cottage, matching the turbulence in her heart. 3 days had passed since the news of their relationship broke. 3 days of relentless media speculation and invasive questions. She had retreated to her small home on the outskirts of the city, needing space to process both the pregnancy and the public scrutiny now following her every move. Orion had respected her need for solitude, though his concerned text messages arrived hourly. The Foundation's official statement had been dignified and brief, acknowledging their relationship while requesting privacy. It had done little to stem the tide of gossip. Nova sat curled on her window seat, watching raindrops race down the glass, when her phone chimed with a message from Orion. "I need to see you. Important news about the center's funding. Can I come over?" She hesitated, then replied affirmatively. Despite her need for space, the thought of seeing him brought unexpected comfort. Within 30 minutes, she spotted his car pulling into her gravel driveway, rain hammering its sleek surface. Nova opened the door as Orion dashed through the downpour, water dripping from his coat as he stepped inside. His face was drawn with fatigue, but his eyes brightened at the sight of her. "How are you feeling?" he asked, restraining himself from reaching for her, respecting the invisible boundary she'd established with her retreat. "Physically better," she admitted. "Emotionally, still processing." He nodded, understanding in his gaze. "The board approved the center's grant unanimously," he said, offering good news first. "They issued a statement supporting your work and dismissing any suggestion of impropriety." Relief washed over her. "That's something, at least. I also wanted to tell you in person that I've arranged for a security detail for you," he continued. "Nothing intrusive, just protection from overzealous photographers. And I've had my legal team prepare cease and desist letters for any publication." printing speculation about you." Nova felt a rush of gratitude for his thoughtfulness. "Thank you." A sharp, angry knock at the door interrupted her. They exchanged confused glances. Nova wasn't expecting anyone else. "I'll get it," Orion said, moving toward the entrance. The moment he opened the door, a gust of rain-laden wind accompanied a woman who pushed past him into the cottage. She was strikingly beautiful, with razor-sharp cheekbones and cold eyes that immediately found Nova. Expensive perfume filled the small space as she stood dripping on the hardwood floor, radiating fury. "So this is where you've been hiding your little charity project," she spat at Orion. Her accent cultured, her voice pitched to wound. Nova stood frozen, a terrible understanding dawning as the woman's gaze raked over her dismissively. "Lyra," Orion said, his voice suddenly tight, "what are you doing here?" "What am I doing here?" The woman laughed, the sound brittle and dangerous. "Perhaps I should be asking what my husband is doing in this quaint little hovel with his latest distraction." The word husband hit Nova like a physical blow. She looked at Orion, silently pleading for him to deny it, to explain this as some cruel misunderstanding. His face had drained of color, jaw clenched as he stared at the woman, Lyra, with undisguised hostility. "You need to leave, now. Leave." "I don't think so." Lyra pulled off soaked leather gloves with deliberate slowness. "Not until I've met the woman foolish enough to believe she could have you." She turned to Nova, smile venomous. "Did he tell you about me, darling, or did he conveniently forget to mention he has a wife?" Nova felt the room tilt, bile rising in her throat. "Orion?" His name emerged as a broken whisper. His silence was confirmation enough. Lyra's smile widened as she reached into her designer handbag, pulling out a diamond ring that caught the light even on this gloomy day. She tossed it contemptuously onto the coffee table. "A memento of our happy union," she said. 5 years. This December. Rather an important detail to omit, wouldn't you say? Nova's mind raced through every conversation, every intimate moment shared with Orion. Not once had he mentioned a wife. Not once had he worn a ring or indicated in any way that he was unavailable. The magnitude of the deception struck her with physical force. "Is what she's saying true?" Nova finally managed, voice barely audible. Orion moved toward her, desperation in his eyes. "Nova, please, I can explain." "Don't touch me," she warned, backing away. "Answer the question. Is she your wife?" The silence stretched between them, broken only by Lyra's soft, triumphant laughter and the relentless drumming of rain on the roof. "Yes," he finally admitted, the word falling between them like a death knell. "But it's not what you think." "Not what I think," Nova repeated, disbelief coloring her voice. "What exactly should I think, Orion? That you accidentally forgot to mention you're married? That it slipped your mind during all those nights we spent together? During all those conversations about honesty and trust?" "Oh my," Lyra interjected with mock surprise. "Did he feed you that line about wanting authenticity?" He used the same approach with his last mistress. Very effective, apparently. Orion whirled on her. "That's enough, Lyra. You've made your point." "Have I?" "I'm not sure your little artist understands exactly what she's gotten herself into." Lyra's gaze dropped pointedly to Nova's stomach. "Though I hear congratulations are in order. Driplets, is it? How convenient for securing your position." Nova felt as though she'd been struck. "How do you know about that?" "Hospital records aren't as private as one might hope," Lyra replied with a casual shrug. "Not when one has the right connections." The violation of her medical privacy was the final straw. Nova turned to Orion, no longer fighting the tears streaming down her face. "You need to leave, both of you, now." "Nova, please," Orion begged, reaching for her. Let me explain. It's not what it looks like. What it looks like, she cut him off, voice shaking with rage and betrayal, is that you're a liar, a cheater. You made me believe in something that was never real. It was real, he insisted. Everything between us has been real. More real than anything in my life. Except the part where you're married, Nova countered. Except the part where our entire relationship is built on a foundation of lies. Lyra watched their exchange with undisguised satisfaction, making no move to leave. Rain continued to pound against the windows, nature's fury matching the storm, raging inside the small cottage. I was going to tell you, Orion said desperately. After we found out about the babies, I was going to explain everything. And yet somehow you didn't, Nova replied, arms wrapping protectively around her midsection. Not when we met, not when we became involved, not when we first made love, not when I told you I loved you, not even when we found out I'm carrying your children. Each statement landed like a blow. Orion flinched, but couldn't deny the truth in her words. I think it's time for you to collect your husband and go, Nova said to Lyra, summoning what dignity she could manage. You've made your point quite effectively. Lyra's smile was all teeth. Gladly, though I must say, I expected more of a fight from someone who thought she could steal what's mine. I didn't know he was yours to steal, Nova replied quietly. And now that I do know, you can have him back. I want no part of this deception. She moved to the door, opening it wide despite the rain still hammering down. The message was clear: leave. Lyra sauntered out without a backward glance, seemingly unbothered by the downpour. Orion lingered, devastation written across his features. Nova, please, he tried one last time. At least let me explain. There's nothing to explain, she interrupted, voice surprisingly steady despite the earthquake reshaping her world. You're married. You lied to me. You made me the other woman without my knowledge or consent. There's nothing more to say. I love you, he whispered, a final, desperate truth. Nova met his gaze directly, allowing him to see the full extent of her pain. Love without honesty isn't love at all. It's just another pretty lie. With those words, she closed the door on the man who had opened her heart, only to shatter it completely. Through the window, she watched him stand motionless in the rain, water streaming down his face, before finally turning away toward the waiting car where Lyra sat. Only when his taillights disappeared down the long driveway did Nova allow herself to collapse, sinking to the floor as sobs tore through her. One hand pressed against her stomach, where 3 innocent lives grew, oblivious to the destruction of the world their parents had briefly built together. I'm sorry, she whispered to her unborn children. I'm so sorry. Outside, the storm raged on, unaware and uncaring that it had just witnessed the death of what Nova had believed was true love. Chapter 7. Oceans Apart. 3 weeks after Lyra's devastating revelation, Nova found refuge in her grandmother's seaside cottage, 200 miles from the city. The weathered building welcomed her with creaking floorboards and salt-tinged air, its familiar scents of driftwood and sea foam offering solitude when she needed it most. From the wraparound porch, the endless horizon promised a sense of possibility that had vanished from her life in a single rainy afternoon. Inside, an easel stood by the large picture window, canvas covered with dark swirls of indigo and violet, capturing the tempestuous sea that matched her emotions. Painting had become both therapy and voice for feelings too complex for words. Each brushstroke seemed to drain a fraction of her pain, transferring it from her heart to the canvas where she could examine it with some measure of objectivity. She had disabled all social media accounts after the media frenzy that followed Lyra's confrontation. Headlines ranging from sympathetic art therapist caught in Kai marriage scandal to salacious pregnant mistress drama, Kai's secret double life, had dominated tabloids for days. The community center's board had suggested a leave of absence. Until things settled, their carefully worded email barely concealing their disappointment in her perceived lack of judgment. Their support, once steadfast, had wavered under public scrutiny. Only Imani remained unwavering, driving up each weekend with groceries, prenatal vitamins, and a stubborn loyalty that brought tears to Nova's eyes. She asked no questions when Nova couldn't speak, simply sitting beside her on the porch swing as they watched the horizon together, the rhythmic creaking of the swing matching the waves below. "The babies look healthy," Dr. Williams, the silver-haired local physician, had confirmed that morning during Nova's checkup. "Strong heartbeats, developing right on schedule. Mother seems a bit anemic though, more iron-rich foods and those supplements I prescribed." Nova had nodded, grateful for the medical care, but unable to fully embrace the joy that should accompany such news. How could she celebrate life growing inside her when the very ground beneath her feet had proven false? Her hands rested protectively over the small swell of her abdomen, a silent promise to these innocent lives that somehow she would create stability from chaos. Meanwhile, in the gleaming metropolis she'd left behind, Orion Kai sat motionless in his penthouse office, staring unseeing at the city sprawled below. The space that had once served as command center for his philanthropic empire now felt like a prison, walls closing in despite the floor-to-ceiling windows, offering panoramic views. He had not slept properly in weeks, existing on black coffee and sheer determination. Sleep had become a distant memory. Dark circles shadowed eyes that had lost their characteristic intensity. Stubble darkening a jaw, clenched against emotions threatening to overwhelm his carefully constructed control. His immaculately tailored suits hung looser on his frame, evidence of meals forgotten or abandoned. His assistant Eleanor appeared in the doorway, concern etched into features normally schooled to professional neutrality. "Sir, the board is waiting in the conference room. The quarterly meeting started 20 minutes ago." When she hesitated rather than departing, he looked up questioningly. "Sir, if I may," she began carefully, her 15 years of service earning her the right to such candor. "Perhaps it would be wise to consider taking some time off. You've barely eaten or slept in weeks. The foundation needs its leader present, truly present." Her eyes softened with genuine concern. "And you need to care for yourself." Alone again, he reached for the bottom drawer of his desk, withdrawing a small velvet box containing a ring with 3 small sapphires, a painful reminder of futures destroyed by his own cowardice. He had commissioned it the day after learning about the triplets, planning to propose once Nova felt secure about the pregnancy. Now it sat unworn, accusatory in its perfection. His phone buzzed with another message from Lyra's attorney, demanding concessions in their increasingly contentious divorce proceedings. Since her dramatic revelation at Nova's cottage, Lyra had weaponized every aspect of their marriage, threatening to drag the Kai Foundation through tabloid mud unless her financial demands were met. The latest communication suggested she might go public with details about the pregnancy if Orion didn't meet her terms. "Find her," he instructed his most trusted security officer later that evening, handing over a sealed envelope. "Respectfully, discreetly. Don't approach her, just confirm she's safe and ensure this reaches her directly, not through intermediaries." "And if we locate Ms. Rivers, sir?" the man asked. "Do nothing else," Orion replied, staring out at the darkening skyline. "Just let me know she's all right. She deserves her privacy and peace." As autumn painted the coastal landscape in russets and golds, Nova transformed the cottage into a home for 4. The smallest bedroom became a nursery, walls covered in a magical forest mural she painted herself, ancient trees stretching toward a starlit sky. gentle creatures peering from behind lush foliage. On difficult nights when sleep eluded her, she would sit in the old rocking chair beside the window, moonlight streaming across the empty space where 3 cribs would eventually stand. The betrayal still burned, but its edges had softened somewhat with the undeniable reality of new life growing within her. She couldn't hate the father of her children, no matter how thoroughly he had deceived her. That complicated tangle of love and pain found expression only in her paintings, canvases filled with turbulent seas, gradually giving way to glimmers of light breaking through storm clouds. On a crisp October morning, Nova returned from a shoreline walk to find Imani unloading groceries from an unfamiliar car. Her pregnancy had advanced enough to be unmistakable now. Her center of gravity shifted to accommodate the 3 lives she carried. "You're early this week," Nova called, quickening her pace as much as her condition allowed. Imani looked up, an unreadable expression crossing her features. "I brought something you need to see." Inside, as Nova settled onto the couch, massaging her lower back, Imani withdrew a thick cream envelope from her bag. "This came to the center for you." I recognized the handwriting. Her tone remained neutral, offering no guidance on how Nova should respond. Nova's heart stuttered as she took the envelope, immediately recognizing Orion's distinctive script. For a moment, she simply held it, uncertain whether to open it or throw it directly into the fire crackling in the hearth. "I'll make tea," Imani said tactfully, disappearing into the kitchen to give Nova privacy with whatever truths or excuses the letter might contain. With trembling fingers, Nova broke the seal, withdrawing several pages of handwritten text. Taking a deep breath, she began to read words that would either close a chapter of her life definitively or perhaps against all odds, open a door she had believed forever locked. Chapter 8. Truth in Letters. The letter trembled in Nova's hands as Orion's familiar handwriting filled her vision. His precise, elegant script covered multiple pages, not a single word crossed out or amended, suggesting he had drafted this message many times before committing the final version to paper. "Nova, I've written this letter 100 times in my mind and a dozen times on paper, each attempt falling short of adequately expressing both my remorse and the complex truth I should have shared with you from the beginning. First, I must acknowledge the most important truth. I lied to you by omission. I didn't tell you I was married, and in doing so, I betrayed your trust in the most fundamental way. For that, I offer no excuse, only my deepest apology and the understanding that you may never forgive me. I would not deserve that forgiveness, even if you could offer it. What I can give you now is the truth, all of it, without reservation. You deserve nothing less, however painful or complicated the reality might be. 7 years ago, my father was diagnosed with aggressive heart disease. As his only child and heir to the Kai Foundation, I found myself suddenly facing not only his mortality, but his desperate need to secure what he considered the Foundation's future. He had built his life's work from nothing, and watching it potentially crumble with his health was unbearable to him. The Vex Corporation had been our primary competitor in sustainable energy development. Their technology complemented ours, and a merger would have propelled both companies decades ahead in innovation. Alexander Vex, the company's founder, had one condition for the merger. His daughter Lyra would marry me, uniting the families as well as the businesses. My father begged me to agree. His doctors had given him months to live, and he was desperate to see his legacy secured before he died. Foolishly, idealistically, I believed I could marry Lyra on paper, maintain a business relationship, and eventually part ways amicably once my father had passed and the merger was complete. I couldn't have been more wrong about the path I was choosing. The marriage was never real in any meaningful sense. We never lived together, never shared more than public appearances necessary to maintain the illusion for my father. Lyra had her own interests and relationships. Our arrangement was purely contractual. I maintained my own residence. She kept hers, and we interacted primarily at foundation events. My father, against all medical predictions, stabilized with new treatments. 1 year became 2, then 5. What I had intended as a temporary sacrifice became a seemingly permanent prison. When I attempted to broach divorce 2 years into our arrangement, Lyra made it clear she would ensure the Kai Foundation's destruction through public scandal if I proceeded. Then came the incident I've never shared with anyone until now. 3 years into our arrangement, after I again suggested ending our sham marriage, I became violently ill after a dinner Lyra had insisted on preparing herself. Hospital tests confirmed poisoning with a substance found in certain decorative plants Lyra kept in her apartment. While I could never prove her involvement conclusively, the implication was clear. When I confronted her, she reminded me of the merger agreement's morality clause. If I accused her publicly, the resulting scandal would trigger automatic dissolution of the merger and reversion of significant foundation assets. Thousands of people depending on the foundation's work would suffer. Hospitals would lose funding, educational programs would collapse, research initiatives would end. I found myself trapped in a facade that became increasingly unbearable, especially after my father finally passed last year. Even then, Lyra's threats kept me bound to our arrangement. I withdrew into my work, convinced that personal happiness was a sacrifice necessary for the greater good of those the foundation served. Then I met you. From that first moment at the gala, you awakened something in me I thought had died. Hope, joy, the possibility of genuine connection. I told myself I would explain everything once I knew if there was something real between us. Then selfishly, I convinced myself I needed to be certain of your feelings before risking your rejection with the truth. Every day I didn't tell you made it harder to find the words. Every moment of happiness we shared made me more terrified of losing you. I kept promising myself tomorrow, until suddenly we were creating life together and tomorrow had run out. I was going to tell you everything the night after we received news of the triplets. I had already instructed my attorneys to proceed with divorce regardless of consequences, but Lyra, always monitoring my movements through her connections, acted first. None of this excuses my silence or justifies the pain I've caused you. I allowed fear to overrule integrity, and in doing so, I lost the most precious gift I've ever received: your trust. I won't ask for forgiveness or for another chance. I won't burden you with my presence or my longing for a family I have no right to claim, but I needed you to know the complete truth, if only so you understand that what we shared was never false. My love for you is the most honest thing in my life. The Kai Foundation has established a trust for the children, managed independently and requiring nothing from you, no contact, no obligations, no strings attached. You can refuse it entirely if you wish. It exists simply to ensure they will always have resources for whatever path they choose in life. I've also transferred full ownership of the community center building to a non-profit trust in your name. The children who find healing through your work deserve that security, regardless of your decision about your own future there. The board has been informed that all funding is unconditional and has no connection to any personal relationship. If you ever need anything at all, I am here. One word from you, even years from now, and I will move heaven and earth to provide whatever you require. I wish you peace, Nova. I wish you joy. Most of all, I wish you and our children a life filled with the love and honesty you deserve, even if I cannot be part of it. Always. Orion tears blurred the final lines as Nova lowered the letter to her lap. Outside, waves continued their eternal rhythm against the shore, indifferent to the emotional tempest raging within the small cottage. The setting sun cast long shadows across the floor, painting the room in amber light that seemed to emphasize the gravity of the moment. Imani appeared with steaming mugs of tea, setting one gently beside Nova before taking a seat opposite her. "Should I go?" she asked softly. Nova shook her head, still processing the revelations in Orion's letter. "Did you know?" she finally asked. "About his marriage?" "No," Imani replied honestly. "None of us did. The tabloids are calling it the ghost marriage. Apparently they never lived together, never appeared in public as a couple. Even the foundation's board was unaware." She hesitated. "When the story broke, I did some digging. Their wedding announcement was just a small business note in the financial section, not the society pages. There are no photos of them together, except at formal foundation events. How is that possible in this age, with social media and constant surveillance? Money, power, carefully maintained separation." Imani shrugged. "From what I've heard, Lyra Vex spent most of her time in Europe. They had an arrangement that suited them both until you came along." Nova absently touched her growing belly, mind racing. "He says she tried to poison him." Imani's eyes widened. "That's not just a messy marriage. That's criminal." "And yet he stayed," Nova murmured, understanding dawning. "To protect his father, to protect the foundation." For the first time since Lyra's dramatic appearance at her door, Nova allowed herself to truly consider Orion's perspective. Trapped in a loveless arrangement that had begun as temporary sacrifice and evolved into long-term imprisonment. It didn't excuse his deception, but it painted his choices in a more complex light than simple infidelity. "What will you do?" Imani asked after a long silence. Nova folded the letter carefully, returning it to its envelope. "I don't know," she admitted. "I need time to think." That night, sleep eluded her once again. She paced the cottage, rereading Orion's letter until the words blurred together, the paper soft from handling. Dawn found her on the porch, wrapped in a thick blanket against the autumn chill, watching pink gold light spill across the horizon. As one hand rested on her swelling abdomen, feeling the occasional flutter of movement within. The truth hadn't erased the pain of betrayal, but it had created space for understanding. Orion had failed her through silence, yet his motives stemmed from something more complex than simple selfishness. The man who had pursued her with such gentle persistence, who had seen and valued her work with wounded children, who had looked at her with such naked honesty in their most intimate moments. That man was real, even if his circumstances had been concealed. As gulls wheeled overhead in the brightening sky, Nova made no decisions, reached no conclusions. She simply acknowledged the truth that had been hiding beneath her anger. Despite everything, her heart still recognized something genuine in what they had shared, something worth mourning, even if it could never be reclaimed. Chapter 9. Justice and Freedom. Mahogany panels and hushed voices created an atmosphere of weighted importance in the downtown courtroom. 3 months after his letter to Nova, Orion sat at the defendant's table beside his attorney, facing the dissolution of his marriage and potentially his foundation's reputation. The winter sunlight, filtering through tall windows, cast dramatic shadows across the proceedings, emphasizing the gravity of what was at stake. Lyra had filed for divorce immediately after her confrontation with Nova, but her petition was far from amicable. She sought not only half of Orion's personal fortune, but controlling interest in the Kai Foundation itself, claiming emotional distress and public humiliation justified extraordinary compensation. Her legal team had painted her as the devoted wife, blindsided by her husband's infidelity, conveniently omitting the unusual nature of their arrangement. The proceedings had dragged through depositions and preliminary hearings, each more contentious than the last. Lyra's legal team painted Orion as a calculating philanderer who had used his charitable work as cover for seducing vulnerable women. Her tearful testimony about discovering his affair had made headlines, conveniently omitting the nature of their marriage arrangement. The narrative she'd constructed was compelling in its simplicity, the wronged wife seeking justice, and initial public sentiment had leaned heavily in her favor. Today marked the culmination of the battle, with final arguments and possibly a ruling from Judge Eleanor Harmon, known for her no-nonsense approach and keen insight into cases where emotion and law intertwined. Her reputation for cutting through performance to find truth had given Orion's team their first glimmer of hope in weeks. Lyra sat across the aisle, immaculately dressed in conservative cream, her expression a perfect blend of dignified suffering. Beside her, a team of expensive attorneys arranged documents with practiced efficiency. She caught Orion's eye briefly, the gleam of triumph visible only to him behind her carefully constructed facade of victimhood. "All rise," the bailiff called as Judge Harmon entered, her silver hair cut in a practical bob, reading glasses perched low on her nose as she reviewed the case file. "Be seated," she instructed after taking her place. "I've reviewed the filings in this case extensively, and quite frankly, I find aspects of both parties' claims troubling." Her direct gaze swept between Orion and Lyra. "Before we proceed with final arguments, I understand the defendant has new evidence to present." Orion's attorney, Catherine Chen, stood. "Yes, Your Honor, we have 3 witnesses whose testimony directly contradicts claims made by Mrs. Kai regarding the nature of their marriage and subsequent events." Lyra shifted slightly, the first crack in her composed facade. Her attorney leaned toward her, whispering urgently as she maintained her practiced expression of serene confidence. "Proceed," Judge Harmon directed. The first witness was Eleanor, Orion's assistant of 15 years. Under oath, she testified to the separate lives maintained by Orion and Lyra throughout their marriage, including separate residences and Lyra's extended absences. "To your knowledge, did Mr. and Mrs. Kai ever cohabitate as husband and wife?" Catherine asked. "No," Eleanor replied firmly. "In the 5 years of their marriage, Mrs. Kai visited the penthouse exactly twice, both times for foundation events. She maintained her own residence in Westlake Towers. Mr. Kai often went months without any contact with her beyond email exchanges about foundation matters." The second witness was Martin Rivera, head of security for the Kai residence. His testimony detailed Lyra's unscheduled arrival at the penthouse 3 years earlier, the night Orion had become violently ill. "She insisted on preparing dinner herself, which was unusual," he stated. "She dismissed the staff, including the regular chef. Mr. Kai became seriously ill approximately 2 hours later. I personally drove him to the emergency room." "And the medical diagnosis?" Catherine prompted. "Alkaloid poisoning consistent with exposure to oleander, a plant Mrs. Kai kept in her apartment," Martin replied. "The doctor said if he'd arrived 30 minutes later, the outcome might have been fatal. I suggested police involvement at the time, but Mr. Kai declined." Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Lyra leaned urgently toward her attorneys, whispered, conference, barely concealing her agitation. Her perfectly manicured nails dug into the leather portfolio before her, knuckles whitening with tension. The final witness caused visible alarm in Lyra's expression. Maria Vega, her former personal assistant, approached the stand with evident nervousness, avoiding eye contact with her former employer. "Ms. Vega, you worked directly for Mrs. Kai for how long?" Catherine asked. 3 years, Maria replied. "Until last month. And why did that employment end?" Maria glanced toward Lyra, then straightened her shoulders. "I was terminated after refusing to alter digital calendar entries that would have established Mrs. Kai's whereabouts on certain dates. Objection! Lyra's attorney stood. This is hearsay and irrelevant to the divorce proceedings. Your Honor, Catherine countered, this directly relates to Mrs. Kai's credibility regarding her claims about the nature of their marriage and Mr. Kai's alleged infidelity. Judge Harmon considered briefly. I'll allow it. Continue, Ms. Vega. Maria described maintaining separate schedules for Lyra, one official version showing engagement in foundation activities, another private version documenting her actual whereabouts, including multiple romantic relationships conducted throughout the marriage. Mrs. Kai specifically instructed me to maintain evidence of her involvement with foundation matters while concealing her personal activities, Maria testified. When divorce proceedings began, she asked me to delete all records of her relationships with other partners and create backdated entries showing attempts at reconciliation with Mr. Kai. By the time testimony concluded, Lyra's composed facade had crumbled entirely. She sat rigid with fury, nails digging into the leather portfolio before her. Her attorneys looked increasingly concerned, huddling together during the brief recess that followed. During this break, Catherine approached Orion outside the courtroom. The judge seems receptive to our evidence. I believe we've successfully countered Mrs. Kai's claims of emotional distress. Orion nodded absently, attention caught by a newspaper abandoned on a nearby bench. The headline made his breath catch. Art therapist expands revolutionary program for trauma survivors. Below was a photo of Nova, noticeably pregnant, surrounded by children at what appeared to be a new facility. Her face, though more guarded than he remembered, still radiated the passion for her work that had first drawn him to her. Catherine followed his gaze. She's returned to the center, she said gently. The board reinstated her with a formal apology after the truth about your marriage became public. The expansion is moving forward using the trust funds you established. Good, Orion said softly. That's good. When proceedings resumed, Judge Harmon's expression had hardened. She addressed the courtroom with measured precision. Having reviewed all evidence and testimony presented, I find Mrs. Kai's claims of emotional distress and humiliation to be without merit. The evidence clearly establishes that this was a marriage, in name only, maintained for business purposes with mutual understanding of its limitations. Lyra's attorney began to object, but Judge Harmon raised a hand, silencing him. Furthermore, the evidence suggesting Mrs. Kai's attempt to poison Mr. Kai raises serious concerns that extend beyond this court's purview. I am referring that matter to the District Attorney's Office for investigation. Gasps echoed through the courtroom as Lyra paled visibly, her confident demeanor completely evaporated. As to the division of assets, Judge Harmon continued, the prenuptial agreement clearly limits Mrs. Kai's claims to personal property acquired during the marriage and a previously established settlement. Her attempt to claim foundation assets is dismissed as contrary to both the letter and spirit of that agreement. She removed her glasses, fixing Lyra with a stern gaze. This court will not be used as an instrument of extortion or revenge, Mrs. Kai. The divorce is granted on grounds of irreconcilable differences. The terms of the prenuptial agreement will be enforced as written. With a bang of her gavel, 5 years of false marriage ended. Lyra stormed from the courtroom, trailing attorneys, attempting to calm her increasingly volatile threats against both Orion and the judge. Orion remained seated, feeling neither triumph nor relief. Only a hollow acceptance that one chapter of his life had finally closed, too late to salvage the one relationship that had mattered most. Outside the courthouse, reporters clustered, shouting questions about the proceedings and Nova's pregnancy. Orion walked past them without comment, ignoring the cameras and microphones thrust toward him. Catherine caught up with him at the car. The DA's office will want to speak with you about pursuing charges, she said. "I'll cooperate fully," Orion replied. "But I have no interest in a public spectacle. Justice has been served." "And what about—" Catherine hesitated. "The other matter?" Orion knew she meant Nova and the children. "That's not for the courts to decide," he said quietly. "Some things can't be won through legal maneuvering." That evening, alone in his penthouse, Orion stood at the windows overlooking the city lights. For the first time in 5 years, he was truly free, free of Lyra's threats, free of the facade he'd maintained for his father's sake, free of obligations that had imprisoned him in a life half-lived. Yet freedom felt hollow without Nova. Victory in court meant nothing when measured against what he had lost through his own failure to be honest when it mattered most. His phone chimed with a news alert. Vex Corp, Iris Lyra, Vex detained at airport attempting to flee country. Justice had indeed been served, but it brought him no satisfaction, no peace. The only justice that mattered, the judgment Nova had passed on his deception, remained unchangeable. As he turned from the window, Orion's gaze fell on a small item he kept on his desk, a simple clay figure, crudely formed but vibrant with color, given to him by one of Nova's young students during his volunteer days at the center. "It's you," the child had explained, "helping us make pretty things." For the first time since losing Nova, Orion felt something crack within his carefully maintained control. Alone in the vast emptiness of his perfect penthouse, he finally allowed himself to weep for all that might have been. Chapter 10. Forgiveness's Embrace. The late January storm lashed the coastline with biblical fury, waves crashing against rocks, with explosive force as wind howled around Nova's cottage. At nearly 8 months pregnant with triplets, her body had expanded dramatically, making even simple movements challenging. Dr. Williams had ordered strict bed rest for the final weeks, concerned about early labor with multiple pregnancies, particularly given Nova's slender frame. "The coastal roads flooded," Imani reported, hanging up her phone after checking conditions. "They've closed the main highway too. I should head back to the city before it gets worse." "You don't have to stay," Nova assured her friend, though the thought of being alone during the worsening storm sent a flicker of anxiety through her. "I'll be fine. Just leave the emergency satellite phone where I can reach it." After Imani's reluctant departure, Nova settled into the window seat, watching nature's violence with a painter's appreciation for its wild beauty. The pregnancy had brought unexpected peace after months of emotional turmoil. Creating life had a way of putting betrayal and heartbreak into perspective, forcing her to focus on the future rather than dwelling on the past. She had returned to the community center 2 months earlier, inspired by Orion's letter and the realization that withdrawing from her work only punished the children who needed her program. The board had welcomed her back with genuine contrition after the truth about Orion's marriage emerged through court proceedings and media investigations. The center now occupied a newly renovated building, the expansion funded by the trust Orion had established, a gift Nova had accepted not for herself, but for the children who needed the program. The media circus surrounding Lyra's arrest and subsequent bail hearing had eventually subsided, though occasional updates still appeared when new details emerged about the poisoning investigation. Nova had declined all interview requests, guarding her privacy and the growing lives within her with equal determination. Still, she followed the case through news reports, experiencing complicated emotions as Lyra faced charges for attempted poisoning and evidence tampering. Orion had maintained his promise not to intrude on her life. No calls, no visits, no attempts to leverage their shared children as reason for contact. His respect for her boundaries demonstrated a maturity that sometimes made Nova wonder if, given time and truth, they might have found a way forward together. The satellite phone rang, startling her from contemplation. Probably Imani checking she'd arrived home safely. "Hello?" Nova. The deep voice she would recognize anywhere sent a jolt through her system. "It's Orion." She sat straighter, one hand automatically moving to her belly. "How did you get this number?" "Imani called me," he explained, voice tight with urgency. "The coastal road is completely flooded. The storm is intensifying beyond forecasts. Emergency services can't reach outlying areas until it passes." "I'm fine," she said automatically. "The cottage is sturdy." "Nova, please." His voice softened. "I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but please let me come and make sure you're safe. If the power goes out or if something happens with the babies." He left the sentence unfinished, the implications clear. The concern in his voice was genuine, without manipulation or hidden agenda. Outside, the storm's intensity underscored the reality of her isolation. Pride was one thing. Risking her children's safety was another entirely. "All right," she conceded, "but how would you even get here? The road's flooded." "I'm already on my way," he admitted. "I have a helicopter waiting at the municipal airfield. We can land on the bluff behind your cottage if you'll allow it." Her instinctive irritation at his presumption faded against the practicality of the situation. "Fine, for the baby's sake." "Thank you," he said simply. "We'll be there within the hour, weather permitting." After hanging up, Nova moved through the cottage with new urgency, gathering emergency supplies, candles, matches, bottled water, in case the power failed. The simple tasks helped distract her from the impending reunion with Orion after 6 months of separation. Her emotions churned as complex as the storm outside, anger still simmering beneath the surface, yet undeniably joined by something else she wasn't ready to name. 40 minutes later, she heard the distinctive whoomp-whump of helicopter blades, barely audible above the storm's rage. Peering through rain-lashed windows, she glimpsed lights descending toward the flat area beyond her property. Anxiety and something like anticipation tightened her chest as she waited for his arrival. Minutes passed before a pounding at her door announced his presence. When she opened it, Orion stood drenched on her porch, rain cascading from his coat, hair plastered to his head. The sight of him, somehow both familiar and strange, made her heart stutter traitorously. "May I come in?" he asked formally, maintaining careful distance. Nova stepped back, allowing him entry. In the cottage's warm light, she could see the changes these months had wrought. Weight lost from his already lean frame, new lines etched around his eyes, a gravity to his expression that hadn't been there before. Paradoxically, these signs of suffering made him seem more human, more vulnerable than the polished CEO she had first met. His gaze fell to her pronounced belly, emotion flashing across his features before he carefully schooled them to neutrality. "How are you feeling?" he asked, removing his sodden coat. "Enormous," she answered honestly. "Dr. Williams says everything looks good, but ordered bed rest as a precaution." Orion nodded, clearly uncertain of his welcome beyond the immediate crisis. "The pilot says the storm should pass by morning. I've brought emergency medical supplies and a satellite communication system that will work even if power and regular phones fail." "Thank you," Nova said, discomforted by his businesslike efficiency. "There's dry clothing in the guest room. My father's things from when he visited last. They should fit well enough." While Orion changed, Nova eased herself onto the couch, the exertion of the past hour taking its toll. The babies seemed unusually active, responding perhaps to her elevated heart rate or the storm's barometric pressure. Orion returned wearing simple flannel pants and a faded sweater that transformed him from polished CEO to ordinary man. The incongruity of seeing him in her father's casual clothes in this intimate setting struck Nova with unexpected force. "You should rest," he said, noticing her discomfort. "I can monitor the weather from the kitchen." "You don't need to hover in another room," she replied. "I'm not made of glass." Orion hesitated, then sat in the armchair farthest from her. Outside, wind shrieked around the cottage eaves as rain pelted the windows with renewed intensity. "I'm sorry for intruding," he said after a long silence. "I know seeing me is the last thing you want." Nova studied him, seeing beyond the careful mask to the genuine concern beneath. "It's not," she admitted. "Not the last thing." His eyes lifted to meet hers, surprise evident in their depths. "When I first read your letter," she continued, "I was still too hurt to fully process it. But these past months, preparing to bring our children into the world, I've had time to think about everything." "Nova, you don't owe me any explanation," Orion began. "I'm not doing this for you," she interrupted gently. "I'm doing it for me, for them." She pressed a hand to her belly. "The court transcripts became public record. I read your testimony, what Lyra did, what you were trying to protect." Orion's expression tightened. "None of that justifies my silence with you." "No," she agreed, "it doesn't, but it helps me understand it." Nova shifted, trying to find a comfortable position. "You should have trusted me with the truth from the beginning, given me the chance to decide for myself whether your situation was something I could accept." "You're right," he said simply. "My fear of losing you led me to the very outcome I was trying to prevent. The irony isn't lost on me." A particularly violent gust rattled the windows, followed by a crash as something struck the roof. Nova flinched involuntarily. Orion was instantly alert. "That sounded like a branch. I should check for damage." "There's a trap door to the attic in the hallway," Nova directed. "Flashlights in the kitchen drawer." While he investigated, Nova closed her eyes, one hand resting protectively over her swollen abdomen, where 3 distinct patterns of movement could now be felt. Her children, his children, their children. Whatever happened between her and Orion, these lives would connect them forever. Orion returned, hair dusted with insulation. "Small breach in the roof over the back bedroom. I've covered it temporarily with plastic sheeting, but it'll need proper repair when the storm passes." "Thank you," Nova said, genuine gratitude in her voice. He nodded, then moved to build up the fire that had burned low during his absence. The domestic normalcy of the scene struck her, Orion kneeling at her hearth, ensuring her warmth and comfort while storm winds raged outside. It seemed both strange and somehow right, as though the universe had engineered this forced proximity to address what remained unspoken between them. "I never stopped loving you," Nova said quietly, the words emerging unbidden. "Even when I hated what you'd done, even when I couldn't imagine ever trusting you again, I never stopped loving you." Orion went very still, back to her as he knelt before the fireplace. "Nova," he began, voice strained. "I'm not saying this to rekindle something," she clarified. "I'm saying it because these children deserve parents who can at least be honest about their feelings, even if those feelings can't change what happened." He turned to face her, firelight casting his features in warm illumination. "I've respected your boundaries these past months because it was the only gift I could offer after taking away your choice. Not because my feelings changed." Outside, a tremendous crack of thunder shook the cottage, followed immediately by darkness as the power failed. The fire provided the only illumination, casting long shadows across the suddenly intimate space. "Perfect timing," Nova remarked with a hint of her old humor. Orion moved efficiently through the darkness, locating candles and emergency lights he'd brought. Soon the cottage glowed with warm, flickering light that somehow made the space feel removed from time itself. A sanctuary within the storm where only truth could exist. As he helped Nova to a more comfortable position on the couch, a particularly forceful movement from one of the babies made her gasp. Without thinking, she reached for his hand, placing it against the spot. "That's your son," she said softly. "He's the most active. especially at night. Orion's expression transformed with wonder as he felt the strong kick against his palm. "Son," he whispered. "Two girls and a boy," Nova confirmed. Dr. Williams could see them clearly at the last ultrasound. They remained frozen in that tableau, his hand on her belly, her hand atop his, connected by the lives they had created together, as the storm raged impotently against their momentary peace. When Orion finally spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. "I don't expect your forgiveness, Nova. I don't deserve it, but please know that whatever happens between us, these children will have a father who loves them unconditionally, who will always protect them, who will never lie to them." In that moment, with his hand still resting against the evidence of their connection, Nova recognized a profound truth. Forgiveness wasn't about erasing what had happened or pretending the pain hadn't been real. It was about choosing to move forward unburdened by bitterness, for her sake and for the 3 lives depending on her. "I believe you," she said quietly, "and that's where we start." The storm continued through the night, but within the candlelit cottage, something fundamental had shifted, not a return to what was, but perhaps the tentative beginning of what might be. Chapter 11. Dark Reckoning. February brought unseasonable warmth to the coast, coaxing early wildflowers from soil still damp from winter storms. Nova's cottage had become a place of cautious new beginnings in the month since the night Orion had arrived during the tempest. He had not presumed upon her forgiveness, maintaining a respectful distance while finding small ways to provide support, arranging for roof repairs after the storm damage, ensuring her kitchen was stocked with fresh groceries, accompanying her to medical appointments where 3 heartbeats were monitored with increasing frequency as her due date approached. Their relationship existed in an undefined space, neither together nor truly apart, bound by the children they had created and a love neither could deny despite the pain that lay between them. They spoke daily, but carefully, rebuilding trust through small moments of honesty where once there had been deception. On a particularly mild evening, Orion had suggested a short walk along the beach, concerned about Nova's increasing restlessness. With bed rest, Dr. Williams had approved limited movement and the sunset promised to be spectacular. "Just to the cove and back," Orion stipulated as he helped her navigate the sandy path down from the cottage. "And we stop the moment you feel tired." Nova accepted his support with grace that belied her ungainly form. At nearly 8.5 months pregnant with triplets, her once lithe body had transformed dramatically, making even simple movements challenging. Yet there was a serene beauty to her that took Orion's breath away, the mother of his children glowing in the golden evening light. "Stop looking at me like that," she chided gently as they reached the shore. "Like what?" Orion asked, steadying her as a wave washed over their feet. "Like I'm some fertility goddess instead of a woman who can barely see her own feet." He smiled, the expression transforming his serious features. "You are beautiful, Nova, especially now." They walked slowly along the water's edge, comfortable silence between them as the sun began its descent toward the horizon. In the distance, the small cove Orion had mentioned came into view, a sheltered semicircle of sand framed by weathered rocks. "I've been thinking," Nova said as they approached the cove, "about names for the babies." Orion glanced at her, surprised by the overture. She had maintained careful boundaries around such intimate topics. "I'd love to hear your thoughts." "For our son, I was considering August," she said. "It means majestic or venerable. And for the girls, perhaps Willow and Ivy, names from nature that represent resilience and growth." "August, Willow, and Ivy," Orion repeated, testing the names. "They're perfect." Nova smiled, pleased by his approval. I wanted names that would remind them they come from strength, even if their beginning was complicated. As they reached the cove, Orion stopped abruptly, eyes narrowing at something ahead. "Wait here," he instructed, suddenly alert. "What is it?" Nova asked, following his gaze toward the rocks. "Probably nothing," he replied, though his posture suggested otherwise. "Just let me check." He moved forward cautiously, scanning the area with the heightened awareness developed through years of corporate security concerns. The setting sun cast long shadows across the sand, making it difficult to discern details among the rocky outcroppings. A movement caught his eye, a flash of light reflecting off something metallic. Before he could fully process what he was seeing, a figure emerged from behind the rocks, silhouetted against the sunset. "How touching," a familiar voice called, its cultured tones laced with venom. The happy family taking a sunset stroll. Lyra stepped fully into view, her once perfect appearance noticeably disheveled. Designer clothing hung loose on her frame, and her hair, usually immaculately styled, whipped wildly in the sea breeze. Most alarming was the knife clutched in her right hand, blade catching the dying sunlight. "Lyra," Orion said calmly, positioning himself between her and Nova. "You're violating your bail conditions by being here." She laughed, the sound brittle and unhinged. "Bail conditions? Do you think I care about legal technicalities now? You've destroyed everything, my reputation, my freedom, my future. The great Orion Kai, always so concerned with his precious foundation, his legacy of helping others. What about me? What about what you promised my father?" "Your father understood our arrangement was business, not love," Orion replied slowly, backing toward Nova, gaze fixed on the knife. He never expected more. "But I did." Lyra's voice rose, edged with hysteria. "I played my part perfectly. I maintained the facade. I waited patiently for you to see me as more than a contract obligation. Then she came along. Her gaze shifted to Nova, and suddenly, nothing else mattered. Nova stood frozen, one hand protectively covering her belly as she assessed their situation. The nearest houses were too far for shouting to be heard. Her phone remained in the cottage, and Orion's was likely in his jacket pocket, currently inaccessible without alerting. "Lyra, this isn't the answer, Lyra," Orion said steadily. "You're facing serious charges, but with the right legal representation, there's still a path forward for you. Don't make it worse." "Worse?" Lyra's laugh held no humor. "I'm facing prison, Orion. My assets are frozen. My father won't even take my calls. How exactly could it get worse?" She moved closer, knife extended. "At least I can ensure you don't get your perfect ending. If I can't have you, she certainly won't." Everything happened in terrible slow motion. Lyra lunged toward Nova with surprising speed, knife glinting. In the fading light, Orion threw himself forward, intercepting her attack with his body. The blade plunged into his side as momentum carried them both onto the sand. Nova screamed, the sound carrying across the empty beach. Orion wrestled with Lyra, weakened by the wound, but determined to disarm her. Blood spread across his shirt, darkening the fabric as they struggled. In the distance, shouts responded to Nova's cry. Two figures appeared from the direction of the village, local fishermen heading home after checking their boats before tomorrow's dawn departure. "Help!" Nova called, voice breaking with terror. "Please help us!" The men broke into a run, immediately assessing the situation as they approached. One grabbed Lyra from behind, restraining her arms while the other kicked the knife away. Lyra fought wildly, screaming obscenities and threats as they subdued her. Nova dropped to her knees beside Orion, heedless of her condition. Blood pooled beneath him on the sand, his face alarmingly pale. "Stay with me," she pleaded, pressing her hands against the wound to stem the bleeding. "Don't you dare leave us now." Orion's eyes found hers, focus already dimming. The babies, he whispered. Take care of our babies. We will take care of them together, Nova insisted fiercely. Do you hear me? Together. One of the fishermen was on his phone, urgently requesting medical assistance while his companion secured Lyra with rope from his pocket. She had stopped, struggling, a strange calm overtaking her as she watched Orion bleeding onto the sand. I told you he would never be yours, she said to Nova, voice eerily composed. One way or another, I win. Nova ignored her, attention focused entirely on Orion as his breathing grew more labored. Stay awake, she commanded. Talk to me. Tell me about what we'll do when the babies come. He struggled to maintain consciousness, lips curved in a faint smile. August will need a father who teaches him honor, he managed, better than my example. You'll teach him yourself, Nova insisted, tears streaming unchecked down her face. You'll teach all of them. This isn't how our story ends, Orion. Not like this. In the distance, sirens wailed as emergency vehicles navigated the coastal road. The fishermen had created a makeshift stretcher from their jackets, preparing to move Orion if necessary. As twilight deepened around them, Nova held Orion's hand, refusing to release him even as paramedics arrived and took over emergency care. His blood stained her clothing, her hands, the sand beneath them, physical evidence of his willingness to sacrifice everything to protect her and their unborn children. When they loaded him into the ambulance, his grip on consciousness tenuous. At best, Nova climbed in beside him despite the paramedics' protests about her condition. I'm not leaving him, she stated with quiet certainty. Not now, not ever again. Behind them, police officers led a strangely subdued Lyra toward a patrol car, her expression vacant as though the enormity of what she had done had finally penetrated her rage. As the vehicles pulled away from the beach, ambulance racing, toward the hospital, police car toward the county jail, the sun finally slipped below the horizon, casting the scene of violence in merciful darkness. In the ambulance, Nova held Orion's hand as medical personnel worked frantically to stabilize him, her whispered mantra continuing despite his unconsciousness. Stay with me, stay with us. Our story isn't over yet. Chapter 12, Love Multiplied. The hospital waiting room became Nova's world for 36 hours. Antiseptic smell, uncomfortable chairs, and the constant background noise of medical equipment forming the landscape of her vigil. Orion had survived emergency surgery, but his recovery remained uncertain. Ms. Rivers, he's awake and asking for you, a nurse finally announced. Relief flooded through Nova as she made her way to the ICU. Orion's eyes found hers immediately. Nova, he whispered, voice raspy from intubation. You scared us, she said simply, taking his hand. Sorry, he managed with a weak smile. Bad timing. As they spoke quietly, a contraction tightened across Nova's abdomen. Before she could hide her discomfort, her water broke in a sudden rush. Get OB down here, the nurse called urgently. It's too early, Nova protested as she was wheeled away. I need to be with her, Orion insisted, struggling to rise despite his injury. Stay where you are, Mr. Kai, the nurse ordered firmly. She's in good hands. For 12 intense hours, Nova labored to bring their children into the world. Willow arrived first with a powerful cry, followed 7 minutes later by Ivy. August took his time, finally appearing after another 20 minutes of determined effort. 3 perfect babies, the doctor announced, small but strong, like their mother. The hospital arranged for Orion's bed to be moved to Nova's room, allowing them to heal together while bonding with their children. As the days passed, their fragile new beginning strengthened with each shared smile, each quiet conversation, each moment spent marveling at the tiny lives they'd created. On a bright March morning, Orion stood unassisted for the first time since the attack. Moving carefully to the cribs, he gazed at his sleeping children. I made them a promise while you were in surgery, he said softly, that I would be a father worthy of them, worthy of you. From his bedside drawer, he withdrew a small velvet box containing a platinum ring with 3 sapphires. With determination overcoming pain, he lowered himself to one knee. Nova Rivers, I love you more than I believe possible. Our beginning was flawed by my mistakes, but if you'll give me the chance, I promise our future will be built on nothing but truth. Will you marry me? Nova looked from Orion to their sleeping children, acknowledging the painful journey that had brought them here and the love that had proven stronger than all obstacles. Yes, she said simply, but we get married at the lighthouse where we first truly saw each other. 3 months later, they exchanged vows beneath a summer sunset, the lighthouse beams sweeping across the darkening sky behind them. Their children, dressed in white, were cradled by trusted friends as witnesses to the ceremony. Love isn't perfect, Nova said in her vows, but true love rebuilds stronger at the broken places. Orion's voice was steady with conviction. I promise to be worthy of this second chance, to honor your trust, and to remember always that honesty is the foundation upon which lasting love is built. In their cottage that night, 3 cradles awaited beneath a mural of the night sky Nova had painted, a testament to love's enduring power to overcome even the darkest trials and emerge multiplied and strengthened in the dawn of a new day.